My guest today is dynamic. Whenever I see her, it's always filled with love. She is my sister, and I always cherish our conversations because she sees me and I see her. She is a daughter, sister, mother, confidant, trailblazing social justice leader, movement strategist, globally recognized civil rights activist, co founder of Until Freedom and the historic Women's March, and the author of the national bestseller, State of Emergency. She served as the youngest ever executive director of the National Action Network. And her speech in the wake of the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, entitled State of Emergency, was dubbed the speech of the generation by ABC News. She's also an expert in gun violence prevention, criminal justice reform, and grassroots organization. I'm so happy to have her with me today because her new book, I've Lived to Tell the Story, a memoir of love, legacy, and resilience, is absolutely outstanding. It's a must read. Welcome to the show, Tamika D. Mallory. How are you today?
Yeah, listen, you need to be with me on the road, honey. All of that was so good. I
Well,
was like, I was into it like, who's she talking about?
first of all, congratulations on this book.
Thank you. Thank
You
you,
went
sis.
deep.
Oh, yeah.
You went
Real,
deep.
yeah, real deep. And I appreciate you for the support. I know you as, the type of person who won't say, you're not a rude person, so you'll say nothing, but you definitely are not going to say something is good that you don't like. That's just not the Kelly. Everybody knows that. you you
Let me
are
tell
not.
you, I was I was there with you in the Bronx and in Harlem at the beginning, and as long as I've known you, I'm like, wow, Tamika,
Mm,
wow, the
mm,
makings of you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I say congratulations, and I say like I admire you so much for going so deep,
yeah.
and you didn't have to because you're so dynamic. Allowing us into your life, the beginning of your life. I want to ask you because you're so young. Why now write this book?
Yeah, so I after the speech in Minneapolis, I was contacted by book agents and publishing houses. Folks wanted to, help to put out my first book. I called Charlemagne, the guy who is my friend, and I asked him to look at the deals that I had and help me to make a decision because I obviously had never negotiated a book deal, and nor did I even think I had in me what it takes to like write any kind of book. State of Emergency being the first one. And so, he got back to me and was like, hey, these people are offering you some good money. And he said, but I just want you to know that my imprint is also coming out, about to announce it. And if you're interested, I would love to have you as my first book. Now, he could have anybody. Charlemagne sits at, with the greats, right? He
Yeah.
could have done a book by anyone, whether they be political, entertainment, whomever. But he decided to take a chance on me, and the offer that he had, especially with his first book coming out, it wasn't as much money, still over $1 million, but not as much money as some of the other folks. And so he was like, you need to take the money. Like, if that's what do, it's okay. Like, I won't be mad at you. And I was like, nah, actually, him being my friend, also being a Black man, who has been very supportive of me and other people who do what I do. I was like, I want to do this deal. I know that you're going to have my back. I know you're going to allow me to tell my story the way that I want to tell it. And I also just felt safe in, having my friend as the person who was like the head of the mothership, fathership, if you will, of my project. And so they said, okay, so we got two books in this deal. And I agreed to that. And then the second book, we didn't really know what it was going to be. It was like, Until Freedom was the name of it. Definitely some type of biography piece because I know they wanted me to talk about my life as it relates to the work and the whole thing and how we got to Until Freedom. But then after state of emergency, the editors were like, it has to be a memoir. And I was like, nah, I don't have that much. Excuse me. I'm like, I'm not old enough. The story is not done. Like, and I can't even say the names of the people or tell the real story about some folks because they still alive and they gonna be mad at me. So I was like, I don't think it's a good idea. But after I wrote an outline, Kelly, and I really just kind of laid out all the things, sis, it was 800 pages of content. Like I could see double the size of this
Yeah.
book. And that's when it just hit me that, you know what, these folks believe in me because they know the story, because they travel with me through my experiences. They know about a lot of things that have happened in my life, and they saw something in me. And as a result of that, I just said, let's do it. And that was the most insane decision ever because I had no idea when I said, let's do it, how many Pandora's boxes would be open. I
Mm.
didn't know.
Man, wow. And you kind of confirmed. I've always said I grew up in the Midwest, and I always said the life of a child in New York City has to be so different because and let's start. And I want to talk about a few things in this beautiful book. I just admire that you kind of just you did opened up the door for so much of you. Um, how was that when you were in it, writing? Because there's several stories that happened to you before you were 18 years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was very disobedient as a young child, and I've now figured out through therapy, through conversations with my parents, that I just had something in me that my parents didn't even know. They didn't know. They were taking me to rallies and teaching me about self-empowerment, Black empowerment. They wanted me to be strong, but they also wanted me to be innocent for as long as possible.
Hmm.
And there was something in me that I didn't have a clue it meant I was a leader, or that I was going to be one of these people that gets on a plane every week and hardly ever at home, always ripping and running, and that's where I find that's my happiness. Well, at 44, when I get home and get to my bed, I'm like, thank you, God, please, please. But when I was in my 20s and 30s in this work, I loved the drive, the get up and go and be out there, be among people, meeting new people. That was really my thing. They didn't know that that's what was brewing inside of me. They didn't know that my talkativeness, where they used to be like, would you please just go to school and just don't talk, just do what you're supposed to do. But it was hard for me to do that because at the same time, they were teaching me if I see something, say something. And I
Yeah.
saw things, I talk about it in the book. So you know what? I'll tell you this. There were moments when I was writing that I had to stop. And the woman who helped me write, Audrey, she had to stop also because it was traumatizing to try to relive being a 15, 16-year-old girl who is being taken advantage of and or in a dangerous situation. I'm scared. I'm going places I have no business being at all, traveling on the train and doing things I have no business doing. And she was just like, girl, you scaring me. You know what I mean? And this happened
Yeah.
30 years ago. And she was like, woo, I'm nervous. So it was hard to open up some of that stuff. And people are so judgy, but I'm glad that I feel really good about it. It's like you take it and do what you want with it. And if you want to judge me, that's on you, you know.
Yeah. You, it was certain moments in your early years, just your being going to Catholic school and dealing with that, you know, dealing with racists. Period. One of the big ones too. That was big. I loved always ask, don't assume. I said I need to apply that across the board.
Don't assume that because homeboy said, what? You know,
Right.
you know
Your
me.
relationships.
Yeah, he said we,
Yeah.
but I never told you that we were together. And I was like, huh? I just assumed, but I never
Yeah.
did that again.
What I admire about you, and it all makes sense of who you are, your heart. You have such a big heart and love.
Thank you. I do. I try.
You
That's
know,
my
your love. One of the points, pivotal points for me was your protection of women. And when you were writing this book, we were going through that verdict of the Roe versus Wade being overturned. I think it was I admire you, commend you for sharing your stories about having pregnancies you terminated. You know,
yeah,
my
yeah,
choice, my body. You
yeah.
know, when you got to that point in writing that, what
I
pushed
wanted to
you?
take it out. I wanted to take it out the book. I
Yeah.
had a moment when I called the editors and I said, I think we should take that out. I just don't see what's and they were like, well, we had to have many conversations. Trust me, my editors are so tired of me. I hope they will one day when I regain the strength to write again, I hope they'll even take my phone calls because I know they're sick of me. But this was my life. It was
Yeah.
different putting out my first book, which was about America, how I see the country, my theory of change. Yeah, there was some moments that I wanted to edit and change things and do whatever, but it was different. It just what it is what it is. I said what I said. But in
Hmm.
this, these are little secrets. People don't know all those little personal things about, what happened in my life. And I was like, I need to take this out of here. And they were like, well, here's the problem with that. First of all, you said you wanted to be raw and real so that some young woman and or young man could, find their way based upon what's in this book. Like they can use it as a roadmap to see, don't do these things. I already did it. You don't need to try it. Trust me. And so they reminded me of that. But the other thing they reminded me of is the work that I do. To your point about the Women's March, they're like, you literally are fighting for these issues. And to hide it means that you don't truly believe in even what you're saying, right? Like you're out there saying, standing up for our freedom, women, my body, my choice, and you're unwilling to be vulnerable about the choices that you made. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I guess. I guess. I was
Amazing, though.
like, thank you.
Amazing. Your story, even at this young age, connects with so many girls of all colors,
Yeah,
just
absolutely. I
girls,
hope.
period. You know, um, I'm curious to know also, as you are promoting this book, the feedback, because you got the
Mm,
support, but the
mm.
feedback.
Oh man. So I asked my team to put together some of the quotes that I've been receiving from people speaking about the book. People are saying it's been some threads. People are saying you're taking me back to the projects that I grew up in, reminding me of my beginnings and the struggles that we faced as a community, as a people in my household. And and look at me now. Now I'm an executive. Now I'm, wherever I am in life. And I never thought that I would be in this place. And I've seen people who said, I started off that way, still haven't figured it out. But you're giving me hope that I just need to keep going and push through. And then the brothers have been reaching out to me as I'm, on tour. A lot of Black men are getting my book. Some of them street dudes, they hitting me up like, oh, man, I could get you for going in that house, and
Yeah.
oh man, I can't believe this happened. And I tell you, around my son's father being murdered, I received a number of text messages from some of the brothers that know me in the movement, but they don't know anything about my personal life. And they like, RIP to Jason, RIP to him. Like they know they recognize that story and they know, but for the grace of God, they could be Jason.
Hmm.
And so I've been receiving a lot of that. It's the feedback for this book has almost scared me. I don't know how to, if what I'm saying makes sense to you, but it's
Yes.
like, sometimes it's just kind of like it's taking me aback, like, wow, okay, I know it was powerful because I put it out there, but the way that people are calling and like I'm getting these text messages, Tamika with several exclamation points, and they're like, whoa, whoa. My pastor's son, who's also the pastor of our second location, in Port St. Lucie at my church is Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon in New York. So anybody who wants to know, Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, his son texted me in the middle of the night and said, you know how much reading I have to do because they're a reading family and, great preachers, great vocabulary. My pastor always said, you got to read in order to have great vocabulary, darling. And so
Absolutely.
he said to me, I read a lot of stuff fast. You go through it and get all the good points and whatever. And he said, but this book has me captivated where I have to read it word by word. And that type of feedback is really, really blowing me away.
Tamika, I was there with you when you went to Rutgers Park. I was there
Right?
with you walking
You was in
in.
it.
I was in it. I was there. And it reminded me of for people, because I got my New York experience in my early 20s when I first moved there. But when I read that you're like the real life personified winter from the coldest winter, Sister Soldier's
That's what
book.
I always say. When I read
Yes.
that book, I was like, this is me.
Yeah. Your life, I just was like, she hasn't even reached 18 yet. And
Mhm.
I love, I want people to get this book because you just talk about so much, just your early years and then the pivotal moment of when your mother took you
Mhm.
to the man and said, it's a job for you over
Mhm.
here. And you
That was
realize it's a job for you at this law firm.
she talked like this through her teeth. That nano there said he got some work. She's talking through her teeth. Go over there and talk to that man. But that changed my life.
Yeah.
Attorney Michael Hardy, God rest his soul, he passed away recently. He changed my life. He took me off of the cash registers and the call centers that we had those
Yeah.
jobs when you worked
Yeah.
at a telemarketing place and the cash register at the supermarket and the little stores, clothing stores. I used to work on 125th Street and the Mart 125. All of those things shaped me in some ways, but Michael Hardy giving me an opportunity to sit at a desk to learn about being professional. And he was a civil rights attorney
Hmm.
who was fighting for on the legal side some of the very families that my parents were supporting. So we were going to the rally over here, and then back on this side, I was learning the background of the legal basis for these cases. I knew already what would advance to an indictment and what would not, just based upon the law, because I sat at his feet and I would hear him saying and explaining to families that the law, the threshold to be able to prove that a police officer intentionally harmed you or your loved one is really hard, and they do that for a reason. And so when I learned about that threshold, I started to read these cases and be like, mm. But I couldn't say that to people because you never want to, silence a movement by being out there being the Debbie Downer because you never know.
Yeah.
A district attorney might say, no, I found another area that shows that there has been some criminal activity. So I learned so many different things from working in the lawyer's office that I was able to take with me to NAN. And I think it just gave me multiple perspectives so that I
Yeah.
was actually a little bit more advanced in my organizing.
Yeah. And as you talk, this book is just it's a vibration going all through this because life has been up and down for you.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, you dealt with the murder of your child's father. Um, and as you were navigating through all your movements and protests with different people, you struggled with an addiction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Women's March definitely is where I just I lost myself. And you know what? For a long time, I wanted to just blame the Women's March because there's enough of it to go around. Working alongside white women, it can be very, very, very dangerous. And I
Yeah.
know that, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Very dangerous because oftentimes white women, even when they're not trying, even when it's not intentional, they don't necessarily realize that their tears can literally kill a black or brown person. And everybody in the world is going to believe what you say over, a little black girl. Like, who's
Yeah.
going to listen to what I'm saying, right? And so that was really dangerous for me, that particular time period. And I wish that I could just be like, that's the only thing. But the truth is that if you read this story and you know that there was sexual assault, you know that there were, other moments, like you said, my son's father passed away, betrayal, denial, self-doubt, all of that stuff. It's like it passes down from generations. That's another thing, our trauma that we don't talk about. And we create scenarios over time that we don't properly address. And so then when I made it to this point where it was kind of like the onslaught, like everything hit me at once, my sleep was impacted severely. And as you know, we know that sleep deprivation is very dangerous. And and I still struggle with making sure that I get the appropriate rest. But at that time, I was literally up all night. I would only lay down, you lay down, you fall asleep, you're tired. By an hour and a half later, I'm up and I'm writing and thinking and talking and crying and feeling bad and working out and doing whatever. And now it's 6 o'clock in the morning and it's time to rock and roll. So what ended up happening was I was covering it up with makeup and covering it with clothes and fake smiles and all of that. But inside, I was really sick. 98 pounds I got down to. Like, that's for a grown woman, that's really small, and it wasn't intentional. And so I started taking prescription pills, Xanax specifically, but I wasn't taking it prescribed. I got a few from a friend. I had some other stuff in my house. And then so once I started taking the Xanax, then I was like, oh, let me take these things and this and that. And before you know it, I was fully, addicted to Xanax, Percocets. And I tell people all the time, I went from taking one or two pills in a week to taking 20 to 30 in a day.
Hmm.
And the basketball NBA All-Star Jason Williams took me to or he helped me to get checked into a facility. Rachel Nordlinger, who you know well, she was there with me. She took me, and she has a picture that she sends me every year. I don't know why she knows. Somewhere she's getting an alert, and the picture shows the two of us standing in the house. She was helping me get unpacked in the facility, the home. It was a house, but that
Hmm.
was the facility. And she sends me a message every year and says, look at you. Like, look at where you came from. Look at what happened, where you were to where you are now. She doesn't let me forget it. And it's, and I think putting this book, because she got the book before it was, binded and hardcovered and
Hmm.
all of that. She got the book as just a PDF version. She called crying like, wow, like, Meek, I can't believe you told folks all of this stuff that happened to us. Which, by the way, with Rachel, yes, she took me to rehab, but I also talk about she struggled with her own issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with how hard we were going at work. Like, our whole life, everything that we did day in and day out was just about getting up, what trauma has happened today, what tragedy, chasing behind people, cars, this, that. We're out in the street, we're marching, we're running, and it's just too much adrenaline
Yeah.
for humans to manage at that level. And we did it, as you know, at the highest level, and it took a toll on us, as it has with many other leaders. And so she knew, she was like, yo, you really wrote this book,
Oh, you did.
So
Absolutely. And what I find what is so amazing, you come from a two-parent family home.
so
You're a fluent family and progressive family. So you had the tools, but you had to find your own way to
sure
get
did.
here. You
Sure
know,
did.
so many
Sure.
of us have that story. And like you really laid it on, you put everything on the flow for real.
Put it on the
Okay.
floor. Put it on the floor. You know,
Put it on the floor.
I did. I
But and I,
did.
I want to talk about the future and your now until freedom. Let's speak about that amazing organization and all the good works that you and your team are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing Until Freedom up. As I said, that was supposed to be the name of my book. And, Until Freedom is really special because after I left the Women's March, I was like, I ain't having near another organization, nothing. I don't want to deal with all these people and their opinions. And while the white women were the majority of people in the Women's March, don't get it twisted. Working with Black folks every day is very stressful also. So I don't
Yeah.
want anybody to be confused that I'm saying one is it's different, but it still can hurt you really bad because Black folks are so traumatized from everything that we have to deal with in this nation. And then it's hard to fight the oppressor. It's difficult to fight the man. It's difficult to go to work and have to, and you're trying to fight your boss, but you need to be able to take care of your children. So
Yes.
we often suppress so much, so much. We suppress the microaggressions. We suppress the, trauma that we're facing outside in the world. And you and I know, especially as Black women, I think Black women and Black men, we deal with it every moment of the day. There's something, even if it's not happening to you, you're listening to a family member telling you about it. It's on your cell phone. You seeing people right in the palm of your hand being choked to death, shot, stabbed. It's a lot. So when a person like me shows up into a community and we're like, oh, I'm here to help and this and that, people immediately are like, oh, attack her.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because I had already come out of Black organizations where I experienced a lot of things. Now I done dealt with white folk. I'm just like, do they have any jobs that I could get in a room somewhere by myself? And so the men, my son and Angelo, attorney Angelo Pinto, and my son, and some other guys around, they were like, yo, this is not the end. Like the Women's March is not the end. Like, first of all, and I remember very vividly, Carmen Perez, her husband, Jay Jordan, and my son said, we don't follow anybody. That's not what we do. So y'all brought us all this way, and we've been following you. And now you telling me you're going to quit just because some things didn't go right in this other environment. Like, nah, we're not doing that,
Mhm.
and they pushed me. They pushed us. They forced us to stay together. Because in the book, I talk about the times when it looked like our little unit, our little group, the three of us, like we were going to break up. And those guys didn't allow it. I mean, they took us into a hotel room. I don't even know if that made it to the book. I can't remember. They may have cut it. But they took us to a hotel room in Washington, D.C., and sat us down. And these men stood in this room and said, we don't know what the problems are, but y'all letting all these people and all this other energy come between something so powerful. And we going to close this door and y'all going to sit in here until you cry it out, figure it out. And that is exactly how Linda and Carmen and I decided to lock in and stay together. So when we left the Women's March, all of us we were bruised, right? We're what to do now. I just had to go to rehab. I mean, it's just too many things to imagine picking it all back up and starting over again. We didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
But until when we were trying to figure out a name, and my son came up with Until Freedom, it was like spiritual. It was spiritual. It was like a song of praise. It was reminding us that you haven't even halfway completed what you're supposed to be doing, because this thing is Until Freedom. And
Mhm.
so Until Freedom is a social justice organization. We're out there in the midst of some of the most relevant, important, critical fights of our time. That we worked really hard to fight for Breonna Taylor. And unfortunately, justice for Breonna Taylor doesn't look exactly like we wanted. We wanted all the police officers involved with her, killing, her murder,
Mhm.
and and the trauma that was caused to Kenny Walker, her boyfriend, we wanted them all convicted and in jail. And it didn't work out that way, but we did get some convictions, at least one officer. We
Yeah.
also blocked Daniel Cameron, who thought that after being the attorney general responsible for getting justice for Breonna, that he was going to go be promoted and become governor of the state. And we said, sat down, sir. That's
Mm-hmm.
not happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
rallied around, and we continued to go back to Kentucky, not just for the summer of 2020 when everybody was outside, because I think that's how you can tell the difference between Until Freedom and many others. And I'm not saying they're all, I'm just
Right.
saying others out there who claim to be. But Until Freedom has stayed with these families, not just in one moment when it was hot, but we've been there when there was nobody going to court with them. It's just us, and the local community. So that's the deal. That's what Until Freedom
Yeah.
is. It's my happy place.
That's good. I want to also, while we talk about Until Freedom, how can people reach you? Because there's a lot of stories out here in this jungle that
My
have
God.
not gotten the due justice. Can people just, how do they contact you just to even see if this is a case to get involved with?
Yeah, so people send us stuff all the time. If you are someone who's on social media, you can go to at Until Freedom on both Facebook and all the social media networks and send us a note. We get those all the time. I thumb through them. Others do the same thing. We check them out. But you can write us at organizing at untilfreedom.com. Organizing at untilfreedom.com. We don't take any physical mail. But we definitely open emails, we read emails. And let me tell you that I think that one of the um, areas that we're going to be working on the most in 2025, and it's not everything that I've done, Kelly, in my entire life, I'm telling you, in terms of my career, has been something that I didn't even know I was going to get involved in. It's not like I was looking for it, right? Like
Yeah.
I saw a picture of Breonna Taylor on the internet. I was like, damn, I don't know what happened to that young sister, but damn, Ben Crump, here he come calling me, Tamika, I need you to look into this situation. You know what I'm saying? He's
Yeah.
like, this is serious. And he was so sad. Like he had something on him that I had not heard. And it was because Ben has he fights for a lot of people. But when young women's lives are taken, it really, really it gets him ticking, right?
Yeah.
And so he called me. So all of these different things that I get involved in, I'm over here minding my business, and people just start, pulling us into things. And so now what I realize is that there's something that has to be done about the prison system. There are way too many of our people who are dying in prisons, who are being mistreated, not getting the proper food. I was looking at some numbers after Robert Brooks. So,
Hmm.
Robert Brooks was killed. We all saw the video of him being beat to death in Marcy jail, Marcy prison up in New York somewhere, and upstate New York, sorry. And so we start doing our research, just trying to know more about that particular jail. What we found is that for the entire state of New York, as they are reporting how people die in the jails, most of them, like 80%, are being categorized as natural causes. And then there's another large percent that's unknown. You have a little bit of people who they'll say it was a homicide or a suicide. But that to me feels like the numbers are not being reported properly.
Hmm.
Because when you say, 80% at natural causes and then look at the age group and some of them are so young, something is wrong. There's something going on there. So, I'm over here like, okay, I'm gonna do this book. I'm gonna go out on tour. And I just keep getting all these calls from families who are like, can you help me? And I think that for us, this year in 2025, we're really going to do some work to look into what's happening in prisons across this country and try to help some of, because there are groups that already do this and they do it really well. But we want to try to help elevate their voices, similar to what we did in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, with Parchman Prison.
Yeah.
We helped working alongside Rock Nation, Jay-Z, Desiree Perez, and Danya Diaz, and others over there. We help them, we all help one another to uplift the voices of the local activists who had been saying people are dying in this jail, our family members and others, and no one was paying attention to it. But thankfully, because of our collaboration, there have been changes to the jail, not nearly enough. It needs to be closed down. And there's actually a documentary out there that
Yeah.
really helps to elevate their work. So that's the kind of thing, that we're focused on for 2025. I'm sure will be more. We got to fight a fascist, racist, sexist government. And that's not easy, but we're going to we're going to do what we do until freedom
Yeah.
for sure.
I love it. I love all the work that you're doing. And my final question for your book, I Live to Tell the Story.
Yeah,
How has this elevated you?
you know what? My book was released, and this was not planned. It was
Hmm.
released on the same day, February 11th, that Nelson Mandela was freed from 27 years of captivity. And it was not planned, not planned, right? That when I learned that in the comment section, it was the day of the release. I posted something and a woman wrote in the comments, releasing your book on the same day that Nelson Mandela was released is great or something. She said, this is amazing. So I was like, let me go look this up. I looked it up and Kelly, I sat there for a long time being like, whoa, like how could this be? Right? No planning. Nobody knew it. I emailed it to the team. Everybody's like, wow, that's big. I feel like I'm free, right? Free from some of that stuff that was tucked away. It was in the attic, it was in the basement, it was in the shed outside, still looming, but it had been suppressed. And now it's out there to the world. I feel better. I feel like there was some bondage that I didn't necessarily know I was dealing with, and I feel free. And on a real practical level, I'm super proud of myself. I have two books. I am from the projects. Okay. I am a girl who was raised in Harlem and Manhattanville projects between dope boys and prostitution and police murders and, all the things that we all know is happening in our communities. My parents definitely tried to, keep me safe and innocent and secure, but I still could have fallen victim to all those things. And here I am now with two books, not even just one, but two books. That on a real practical level has me feeling super proud of myself and what I've been able to accomplish.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. This book is amazing. It is a New York Times bestseller, all the bestsellers. We're going to get it to that place. We've already claimed that for you.
Thank
Look, that's on the glossy thread. We've already claimed that for
you.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I was doing an interview earlier today, and when it was over, the man said to me, is it okay if I pray for you? He's like, I don't want to be intrusive. I said, oh, prayers, we take those anytime. He began to pray for me, and the first thing he said was, Lord, this needs to be on the New York Times
no,
bestseller
for
list.
real. Really, really. And it will be. Just I appreciate you taking time for me to talk about this book. Um, and just keep on keeping on. You
Yeah.
know,
Thank
God has always had his hand over you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Always.
Sure has. He sure has. He sure, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, 'cause I lived.
Yeah.
I lived
You
the
live to
story.
tell the story. Thank you so much. We will
Kelly, my
continue to follow and support you because you still got more to do,
yeah,
more
I
work to
do,
do, more
right?
love to spread.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
sis.
much. So much love, my sister, Tamika
Yes.
D. Mallory, the guest on the show. Until next time.